lives of the world, humans are all considered the same yet different, united yet divided. What magically is capable of doing all those things is language. Language is a key to keeping mankind united, though it is also what divides them from one another. It unites humans by creating and putting together a variety of sounds and or marks that create a language many use to communicate with each other. However, the language used in one region may not be understood by people from another region, which is what constructs uniqueness among the languages and its people as well as their culture. If a language is capable of doing such things, it is something worth fighting for, and that is one thing the Native American Navajo speakers have come to realize with their endangered language. Navajo Indians are one of the largest tribes federally recognized today, with 120,000 to 150,000 speakers worldwide. And even though the Navajo language, otherwise known as Dine Bizaad, is not as critically endangered as other Native American languages, actions must be immediately taken and continue to help maintain it alive. Even though the Navajo language has undergone many unavoidable obstacles, the Navajo Indians are willing to give their full potential in order for their language to strive. However, they do not have the resources to do so. Therefore, if the $500,000 donation is given to the preservation of the Navajo by the company, the Navajo Indians, as well as others trying to preserve the language, will be in eternal debt. If the donation is given to help the preservation of this language, it will not be taken for granted because every penny will be used to change lives worldwide for generations to come. In order for that to happen, the preservation of the Navajo language should be enforced and taken very seriously, because if the language is lost, not only will the heart of its people, but also their culture, sense of identity, history, and means of expression will all be lost as well. One must question, how can a language become endangered? A series of traumatic events may need to happen in order for an endangerment of a language to occur. Languages usually reach the point of crisis after being displaced by a socially, politically, and economically dominant one, states Rachel Newer in her article, Languages, Why We Must Save Dying Tongues, where she talks about what else would die out along with a language. With that being said, many events contributed to the endangerment of the Navajo language, the biggest one being the arrival of the Europeans to North America, where the Navajo Indians reside in the states of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. The arrival of the white Americans and their language is what contributed the most to endangerment, because it is what started the downfall of Navajo. When the white Americans arrived to the country, they conquered and forced Native Americans to give up their territory and peaceful lives by forcing them to adapt to a new government. The new government forced Native Americans to move into reservations where new boarding schools were set up for their children. Ashley Thompson and Adam Brock stated in the article, Young Navajo Study to Save Their Language, that more than 100 years ago, the U.S. government began sending Native American children to boarding schools where all of the instructions were in English. The native cultures and languages of the children were discouraged. Those who spoke their native tongues or practiced their culture were severely punished. This began to cause terror among the young to practice their culture and its language. What also contributed to endangerment of the language was the support for English from Native American elders. Jania Thomason, in her article called The Navajo Language, Culture, and Code, where she stated about the history and culture of Navajos and how they have impacted the world, said, The reality was a cultural genocide for the sake of progress. The elders of the Navajo tribes knew that it was vital for their children to learn English and put their roots aside to survive and live a prosperous life in the new America. Sometimes, especially in immigrant communities, parents will decide not to teach their children their heritage language, perceiving it as a potential hindrance to their success in life. Newer. They knew that in order for their children to do good in school and go to college and get a well-paying job, it was essential to adapt to the English language in a new urbanized settings. What also persuaded elders to push the learning of English was the terror the white Americans caused on them, as well with their laws for teaching their language and ways of life to their young ones. Elders were also afraid of the consequences their children could possibly face if they practiced their language. So, even though they knew it was going to contribute negatively to the survival of Navajo, they had no choice but to encourage the learning of English to their children. The preservation of the Navajo language should be taken seriously because many important things for its people and the world are at stake along with the language itself. One of the things that would be lost along with the language is the culture behind it. The language has traditional ties and practices revolving around language, which was a way of life, Thomason. Due to the endangerment of the language, the cultural practices and traditions that shaped their ways of life were also sabotaged. The Navajo Indians' lives revolve around their culture and language combined, because every single day stories are told, songs are sung and danced to, rituals are performed, and spiritual beliefs are prayed. All of these are done for various reasons, such as stories are told to warn of dangers, such as a trickster coyote that brings greed and arrogance to the world, and rituals are performed for the praising of a god. Rituals are performed when Indians are in a time of need or when they are grateful and want to celebrate. The performances can last from 1 to 9 days depending on the occasion. The religion of the Navajos is based off of animism, which is the idea that all of the universe's natural world has spirits, meaning that the Navajos believe animals, rivers, mountains, and even plants have souls just as humans do, because they believe the spiritual and physical worlds combine on Earth. The Navajos also believe in and tell stories of skinwalkers, which are people that turn themselves into animals such as bears or eagles, mostly to cause harm on others. All of these cultural aspects will not continue flourishing without the Navajo language, because the language is what allows these stories and ideas to be passed down to younger generations in full context. The Navajo rituals, chants, and stories would not contain the same meaning and emotion if it were said in English or any other language. The Navajo way of interpreting the world would be lost. Another thing that would be lost along with the Navajo language is a sense of identity, because those that are deprived from their language are deprived from a part of themselves. As said in the article where the importance of saving a language is emphasized, called Saving America's Endangered Languages, yet to the Native Americans whose languages are just a few years away from extinction, the loss goes to the heart of their identity. The language people speak forms a part of who they are and where they come from. If Navajo children grow up communicating solely with another language, they will be forced to view the world differently than if their main form of communication was Navajo, making them to be someone they are not. Language ability sets people apart from the rest of the world because the language ability people possess allows them to pick up certain cultural aspects that not only shape the way they live, but also the way of thinking, speaking, and acting. Also, if Navajos do not know their language, they will have to face the possibility of feeling like an outcast when others in the tribe communicate in Navajo. They may then feel disconnected from their people, but most of all, feel disconnected from themselves and their right to pass down their culture. The loss of the unique Navajo language alone would cause a great impact to the world, because it contains meanings of expression that is unlike any other language on earth. The Navajo language is not tied to any other language in the world, as Irene Thompson states in the article Navajo, where the structure of Navajo is broken down. Navajo tends to not borrow words from other languages. Instead, it uses native elements to create new words. For instance, the Navajo word for telephone is bish bihane, which literally translates as instrument with it talking takes place. Besides not borrowing from other languages, to make Navajo's composition more unique, certain letters can have up to 10 ways of pronunciation, and certain words have multiple meanings that are tied to different things. There are words that can be said only in Navajo, but there are also words in other languages that are not translatable to Navajo. Words such as please, that are essential in most, if not all, languages, is not included in the Navajo vocabulary. That is because the Navajo's ways of life influences their language and vice versa. Verb usage in the language also distinguishes it from other languages in the world, because in Navajo, the verb tells the action as well as the time of action, whom the action is for or about, how the action is done, what the action is done from, and other minor aspects depending on the action. Thomason. All of the different subjects a verb can describe in Navajo can also make the language itself unique, because one must understand the many different ways words can be interpreted to be able to use a single word correctly. The history of the Navajo language and its people is also at stake, because if the language dies, the valuable history of it will die as well. All of the struggles and hardships the Navajos went through to survive and prosper will be forgotten if the language dies. Navajo used as a secret code is what gave the Navajo the ability to help save America win World War II. The uniqueness of the language allowed it to be used as a secret code to send classified information that the Japanese could not understand. The surviving 300 code talkers were awarded congressional silver medals, and the original 29 code talkers were awarded congressional gold medals, says Irene Thompson. After many years, the Navajo code speakers were finally recognized for their contribution to the country. If their language is forgotten, it will mean that their effort in helping America win a war was useless. In order to keep the nation's history alive, one must keep the language alive as well. In efforts to preserve the language, today's rapidly increasing technology could be put to use. Technology can be one of the keys to preserving Navajo because websites and apps can be created for multiple uses. A multitude of sites devoted to single languages or languages of a specific region unite speakers and provide multimedia teaching tools too, including the Digital Himalayas Project, the Diary blog, the Arctic Language Vitality Project, and the Enduring Voices Project Newer. As the quote states, websites can positively affect a language because a website can be used as a place where people unite to share stories and ideas on how to learn and help save a language. Websites such as the GoFundMe page can be used to help raise money for the preservation of a language. Apps can also contribute to the saving of Navajo because apps for fast, easy translations between Navajo and other languages can be created. Now that even toddlers know how to use technology, apps or games can be created where colors or letters are said in Navajo. After learning the alphabet and colors in Navajo, the app can continue on to sentences and harder subjects to make sure the kids become fluent in the language. Kid apps and games can greatly help preserve the language because young kids will learn the language without them even realizing it, allowing them to carry the language on to future generations. The government can also contribute to the preservation of Navajo because it can help through funding, campaigns, and laws. Many tribes have the will to revitalize their languages, but urgently need a substantial influx of funding, training, and technical support to produce new fluent speakers, saving America's endangered languages. People are more than willing to participate in the revitalization of their language but need resources. The government has already begun to fund programs that teach the language to their people of all ages. These programs, 150 centers in 110 communities, are spread throughout the Navajo Reservation, said Bernard Spolsky in his peer-reviewed journal called Prospects for the Survival of the Navajo Language, a Reservation, where he talks about the importance of schools and programs for the preservation of a language. More programs can be started in schools and locations near the Navajo territory where people who do not know their native language can learn it. As more and more natives become fluent in the language, programs can then move into other states to get more speakers across the country and ultimately save Navajo. The government can also create different campaigns and programs that can help preserve Navajo that are targeted to parents. Threatening the survival of the language, Navajo parents, especially younger Navajos living in more urbanized settings, now speak to their children in English. Spolsky 142. The campaigns targeted to parents will try to make them realize that they must emphasize and teach the importance of knowing their native language to their children before it is too late. The campaigns and programs will teach parents methods on how to teach Navajo to their children. Campaigns that raise awareness about the endangerment of the language and what is at stake through public presentations can be created as well. But in order for these campaigns to be as successful as people who want to save the language wish, the government must contribute their money, time, and resources. Also, laws not only stated by but enforced by the government as well can benefit the preservation of a language because laws are what set up the rules for language protection. Laws such as the Native American Languages Act, which is a federal policy that enforces the preservation, protection, and promotion of not only Navajo but all Native American languages. The government can make a big difference if they support the importance of saving such a unique language as Navajo. When a language becomes endangered, efforts in preserving it should be taken very seriously, especially if the language has as much of an impact to its people in the world as the endangered language of Navajo does. The $500,000 donation would be much appreciated because it would be used for the preservation of the Navajo language, which will also save the culture, sense of identity, history, and meanings of expression that shape the Navajo lives. To further help people learn the beautiful language and keep it alive, technology and the government can be used to fund programs and websites that teach and promote the language's importance to the world. In order to keep the language of the people alive, we must also keep Dine Bizaad alive.